Today, I'm going to teach you how to turn a crew neck t-shirt into a V-neck t-shirt. We are going to put on a perfect, beautiful V-neck binding. And it's going to be so easy. And this video is for everyone who requested it, so definitely keep those suggestions coming. There are two ways you can do this. You can use the existing rib knit that is in the neckband right now, or you can buy a different fabric for the rib knit of the neck that we're going to create. It's going to be the same method either way. The difference is if you're using the pre-existing rib knit that's on the t-shirt, you're only going to be able to stretch it out so much further. So you're only going to be able to drop that V probably a little bit, an inch or two, not a ton. But if you really want to scoop out this neck and make a deep V, you're going to want to get some different fabric. Today, I'm going to make a deep V and really cut out this neckline, so I'm going to be using an additional rib knit fabric. But if you want to use the existing neckband that's here, seam rip it off with your seam ripper, don't cut it away, and then you're going to follow the exact same steps that I'm about to go over. The first thing we need to do is figure out what do we want this new neckline to look like. So I'm going to chalk out a new V-neck neckline on the dress form here on this shirt. First, I'm going to mark how low I want to come on my chest, and then I'm going to draw my V just on half because we are going to fold this over and cut it out so it ends up symmetrical. So I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to work my way up to the neckline, and I'm going to come right outside about 1/4 of an inch of where the existing seam is. So that way I can just cut that off. Now that I have that drawn out, we can take it off the dress form and cut away the neck. So I folded my shirt in half. Here's center front. I have my shoulders lined up, so I know that everything is nice and symmetrical. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut my new neckline. So now that I've cut away the neckline, you can see my new shape for the neckline and the piece that I removed. And if you just seam ripped your rib knit off, you'll have your piece of rib knit, and then you'll need to cut your new V-neck. Now we need to measure our neckline to see how long of a piece of fabric we need to cut. And we need to take into account stretch in the rib knit, so we're gonna have to minus a few inches. I'm gonna measure half of the neckline, see what we need. So we've got 8 till the shoulder. Okay, so I've got about 12, which means 24 inches here. Now, we need to figure out how much stretch does our rib knit have. If you have a super stretchy rib knit, you're gonna have to take away about 3 inches. If it's not super stretchy, maybe 1 or 2 inches. Mine's fairly stretchy here, so I'm going to take away an additional 2 inches from that measurement, making it 22 inches. You might be wondering, why do I need to subtract a few inches from that measurement? Well, we want to stretch the rib knit when we sew it onto the neckline, so that way it curves up towards the neck. If we make it the exact same measurement, it's going to pop out away from the neck. So we need to make sure that we make it a little bit smaller. If you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you like and subscribe to Sewing Anastasia and hit that notification bell so you know when the new videos come out. And if you're looking to improve your sewing skills, make sure you check out my online sewing classes and my Pattern of the Month Club with the virtual sewing circle. Links for all of that are down below in the description. Now let's get back to this V-neck. Now we need to figure out how wide do we want this rib knit at our neck. So if I measured the existing rib knit band here, it is 3/4 of an inch. So it is doubled because it's folded in half. So that's going to be 1.5 inches wide plus seam allowance. So on this one, they have a really teeny seam allowance. It's about 1/8 of an inch, but I'm going to leave 1/4 inch for seam allowance. So that means I'm going to add an additional 1/2 inch because we have it folded in half. So I need to cut a band that's 2 inches wide and 22 inches long. And when you're cutting this out and chalking out your size, make sure that the stretch is going to be going across the lengthwise of the band. So we need it to stretch this way, not that way. And this is so we can stretch it all the way around the neck. Now that we have the rib knit cut, this is where things get interesting, so follow along closely. The first thing we're gonna do is place our rib knit right sides together. And then we're going to mark center. Mine was 2 inches wide, so I put a little mark at 1 inch. Now we want to copy the same angle of our V onto this little 2-inch strip here. So I still have my rib knit right sides together, and I have the 2 layers, and I've placed it under the shirt, and I have a 1/4 inch hanging out on the side here because that's what I left for seam allowance. And I have my 2 center spots lined up. And now what I'm going to do is draw the shape of this V. So now that V shape is transferred onto the rib knit. So if I pull this back a little bit, you can see that V shape there. Now what we're gonna do is sew that V line that we just drew. So I'm using a straight stitch since this part of the neck is not going to stitch. We want a nice precise stitch. I'm also gonna hold my top thread so that way it's gonna help pull the fabric through the machine so the machine doesn't eat this knit fabric. So make sure it's moving forward first, get a few stitches in there. Go ahead and add your back stitches. Now come forward again, holding those threads. When you get to your point, needle in, foot up, and turn. When you get to the edge, back stitch and cut. You might be wondering, why the heck did I just stitch it like that with the shape of the front of the t-shirt on the very edge? Well, this is where the magic happens. So watch what happens here. I'm gonna cut away this extra fabric, leaving about 1/4 inch. Now we're gonna take it and we are going to flip it wrong sides together. And just like that, we have a beautiful V. And since we traced the shape of that V on the edge of this rib knit fabric, it should be the perfect V shape for the shirt. So no matter what your V shape is, if you follow these steps, it's going to fit in there beautifully. But now we have to sew it to the neck. And setting in a V can be a little bit tricky. It is very precise. So follow along closely. First thing we need to do is take into consideration our seam allowance. Our seam allowance is a 1/4 inch at the neck. So I'm going to clip in just about a 1/4 inch, a little bit shy. You're probably wondering, why are you doing that, Anastasia? Well, we need this area here to fit around the V point. So what we're going to do is take this, flip it over, and we need to make this little spot here, the clip, go around the point of the V. So it should look just like this. And now we're going to pin this in place. So the most important thing is making sure that the little point of that cut is lined up with the seam here when we created the V. And then you can go ahead and pin that down. And it's real important that it's opening up around the tip of that V, about 1/4 inch. And then go ahead and pin that down. So it should look like that right now. So I put a couple more pins in this. So I've just pinned about 1 inch on each side. So if I flip this over, you can see I still have that little cutout there that I snipped. Now I'm going to use the regular straight stitch sewing machine. I'm gonna start here at the 1 inch. We're gonna sew right beyond that clip. We're gonna pivot and then just sew up about 1 inch. So first, we are just going to sew in this little V set so that way you can understand how to do it. So don't forget, seam allowance here is 1/4 inch. We're starting 1 inch away from that little snip that we created and pinned. I'm using a straight stitch. Remove your pins when you get to them. Now when we get directly to that little point that's there, make sure you're right outside of that slit. Needle in, foot up, turn, and then just continue. I'm just gonna come down about 1 inch, back stitch and cut. So right now, it just looks like that. So now you can see we have the V shape set in there at the bottom, but now what we need to do is sew the rest of the neck together. Okay, so now what we need to do is place the right side of the rib knit on the right side of the shirt, give it a little stretch, and we need to clip it in place because we need to serge together the rest of the neckline because that's how I found it. And if you don't have a serger, you know what, that's okay. You can actually use a straight stitch on this because the t-shirt fabric does not stretch a lot. If you do have a fabric that's real stretchy, just make sure you're using your lightning bolt stitch or a small zigzag stitch. And if you're using a sewing machine, you can use pins, but if you are using a serger, make sure you're clipping this together because if you get a pin caught in your serger, it's going to destroy it. We have this all clipped up, accounting for the stretch, and now we're gonna serge it together, and then we'll be done. So I'm gonna serge all these layers together, making sure I'm stretching the rib knit to fit the neckline. Now that we've finished, let's check it out and go over what we've learned. So you can see that we now have a nice V shape here, and our binding is mimicking the V shape that I cut into the shirt. So before we had that high crew neck, and now we have a nice V. Yes, you can see that pink thread there, so make sure you use matching thread. I used contrasting thread today, so that way you guys could see everything real well. And then we have that binding going all the way around the neck, but making our beautiful V. Now you can change all the t-shirts in your wardrobe to a sexy V-neck, woohoo! You can also apply this method to anything that has a neck binding on it like this. It could be a woven dress or a blouse. Thanks so much for watching Sewing Anastasia today. I hope you enjoyed turning your t-shirt into a V-neck. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe to Sewing Anastasia, and let me know what video you want to see next down below in the comments. And don't forget, you can come on into the design studio and take sewing classes with me, or you can take them online now and join the Pattern of the Month Club with the virtual monthly sewing circle. So make sure you check out the links for those down below in the description. And don't forget to follow me on all the social medias, that way we can stay connected and creative together. I post every day what I'm doing in the studio on my Instagram. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.